Tonight, before you close your eyes, let me take you to a small diner on the edge of a quiet American town. The year is 1994, early autumn. The air still holds the warmth of summer afternoons, but the sky is beginning to shift into that soft amber glow. In the corner booth of this dimly lit place sits a young man, around 30 years old. His hair is long, unkempt, falling over a face that hasn't seen a razor in weeks. He's wearing a faded gray t-shirt, once white, now stained by time and the streets. His jeans are torn at the knees. On his feet, flip-flops held together by duct tape, the kind you find at dollar stores. His hands tremble, not from cold, not from illness, but from shame. A shame so thick you could almost touch it. He sits in the corner, his back against the worn vinyl of the booth, trying to make himself as small as possible, as if he wishes the floor would open and swallow him whole. People walk past. Many glance with mixed expressions: disgust, pity, fear, or simple curiosity. Some whisper. Children are pulled away by mothers who worry about catching something or bad influences. But someone sees him differently. Her name is Margaret, but everyone calls her Maggie. Maggie is 50 years old, short, thin, her back already beginning to curve, not from age alone, but from decades of lifting heavy pots, frying in hot oil, and bending over the griddle of her small diner. Every morning, before dawn breaks, she stands in her kitchen, a space no bigger than a walk-in closet. Her right hand, now wrinkled and marked with burn scars, moves with practiced ease, cracking eggs, flipping burgers, slicing onions. Her left hand holds a spatula that's worn thin from years of use, the wooden handle smooth from her grip. Her diner is small, 4 steps from end to end. The ceiling has water stains in several spots, patched with buckets when it rains. The walls are bare brick, never painted, still showing the marks of old advertisements. The floor is yellowed linoleum, cracked in places, sticky no matter how much she mops. But the smell, oh, the smell could wake a hungry person from 100 yards away. Fresh coffee, dark and rich. Bacon sizzling until it's crisp but not burnt. Hash browns with onions caramelized just right. Pancakes fluffy as clouds, made from a batter she mixes by hand every morning. The recipe from her mother, who ran this same diner before her. Maggie lives alone. Her husband Joe passed away 5 years ago from a heart attack. Too much coffee and too many cigarettes, sitting at the counter, watching the door until closing time. They had 3 children: Tom in Chicago, driving for a rideshare company; Susan in Denver, helping her husband sell vintage clothes online; and little Danny, who moved to Texas for oil field work. Rarely calls, rarely visits. They all have reasons: mortgages, kids, lives that are heavy enough. Maggie understands. She never asks for anything, except the quiet prayers she whispers when she looks at the family photos taped to the wall near the register, next to the calendar from the hardware store. But tonight, something catches her attention. Not a regular customer coming in for the blue plate special, not a neighbor stopping by for coffee, but the young man in a corner who doesn't ask, who doesn't beg with words, who just sits, waits, hopes not to be seen, but too hungry to leave. Maggie recognizes something there. Not a typical homeless person. The regulars on the street, they've grown thick-skinned. They have their spots, their routines, their ways of asking that work, repeating phrases that tug at heartstrings, or making vague threats about bad luck. They know the system. But this young man, he still has shame. Maggie sees the way he lowers his head when children walk by, the way he hides his dirty hands behind his back, the way he tries not to stare directly at the plates of food passing by, steam rising, making his empty stomach clench. He still has dignity, worn thin, scraped raw by the streets he sleeps on, but still there. And Maggie knows if there's still shame, there's still hope. Evening falls. The sky shifts from amber to deep purple. The dinner rush begins. People coming from work, stopping in for comfort food before heading home. Maggie is busy, taking orders, making change, calling out to the cook, herself, for extra fries, another coffee, hold the onions. her eyes always returning to the corner, to the young man who now stares at the cracked linoleum as if searching for answers in the patterns. When the crowd thins, when the last customer leaves with a to-go box, Maggie does something. She takes food from the kitchen, not leftovers, the best she has. The meatloaf just came out of the oven, her mother's recipe with ketchup glaze and brown sugar. Mashed potatoes, real ones, not from a box. Green beans cooked with bacon, a slice of apple pie, still warm. She plates it, not on disposable dishes, not on paper plates, but on real ceramic, the heavy white reams with the blue rim, the one she saves for regulars who feel like family. She adds a napkin, a fork, a knife, a glass of water with ice, condensation already forming. She walks to the corner, her steps slow, unhurried, as if carrying something fragile. "Hey there." The young man looks up, startled, not expecting to be addressed. His eyes, deep brown, still clear despite the exhaustion, widen. He sees the plate, sees the wrinkled hand offering it, then sees Maggie's face. A face that doesn't look at him with disgust, not with pity that diminishes, but with warmth, like a mother watching her child come home after playing outside too long. Eat. Just one word. Not eat up, honey. Not poor thing, have this. Not this is charity, take this. Just eat, as if this is the most natural thing in the world, as if he deserves to sit at a table with a hot meal. The young man hesitates, his hands, trembling before, now still in his lap. He wants to accept, desperately wants to accept. His stomach hasn't had food since yesterday afternoon, but his pride still fights. Maggie smiles, a small smile that deepens the wrinkles around her eyes. Food still warm, meatloaf's good today. Eat here, it's okay, we're quiet now. She sets the plate on the table, in front of him, not in his hands, giving him room to refuse. Then she turns, goes back to the counter, starts wiping down a surface that's already clean, giving him space, giving him privacy. The young man looks at the plate, looks at Maggie's curved back as she works, looks at this small diner that suddenly feels like a safe place. He reaches for the plate, slowly, as if it might disappear if touched too roughly. He picks up the fork, real metal, heavy in his hand. The first bite of meatloaf, the flavor hits him like a memory he forgot he had. Home, Sunday dinners, before everything fell apart. He eats, not with dirty hands. He washes them first. There's a restroom in the back, kept clean despite everything. Maggie hears the water running but doesn't turn, keeps busy with her counter. He eats with hunger that isn't polite, not because he lacks manners, but because it's been too long since his last hot meal, too long since someone looked at him like a person. When he finishes, he doesn't leave right away. He sits still, stares at the empty plate, the blue rim, the small smear of ketchup. Then, with a voice rough from disuse, a voice rarely used to speak to strangers, he says, "Thank you, man." Maggie turns, smiles again. "Tomorrow, come back, same time. Got pot roast on special." Not a question, not a command, but an invitation, as if his presence is expected, as if he's become part of the routine. The young man nods, small, shy, then leaves, his steps still tired, but not as heavy as when he arrived. And the next day, he comes back. It becomes a rhythm, not a contract, not a promise, but something that grows on its own, like a wildflower that turns out to be beautiful. Every evening, before the dinner rush, the young man arrives. Not through the front, he's still shy, but through the side alley, slipping in quietly, sits in the same corner booth, waits. And Maggie always has something for him. Sometimes the meatloaf, sometimes chicken fried steak with cream gravy, sometimes a thick burger with fries, cooked medium just how she knows he likes it now. Sometimes, when the diner is busy and there are big orders, something extra special. Roast beef from the church potluck next door, a slice of chocolate cake when someone celebrates a birthday and shares, even a bowl of chili on cold nights with cornbread on the side. She always uses the heavy white plates with the blue rim, always sets it on the table, giving him space, always says, "Eat," in that same tone, as if this is the most natural thing, then turns away, busy with her work, giving him privacy. Weeks pass, months. The young man remains quiet, still rarely speaks, but there are small changes Maggie notices. His hands don't tremble when he accepts the plate anymore. His posture isn't as hunched. His back still curves, but he no longer tries to disappear. Sometimes, while eating, his shoulders drop a little, as if a weight he carries, whatever it is lifted for a while. And one day, he brings something. A paper flower, folded from newspaper. Paper he collected from recycling bins, smoothed with his palms, folded with his thin fingers into the shape of a rose, fragile and imperfect. He leaves it on the counter, quickly, as if afraid to be seen, then leaves before Maggie can say anything. Maggie finds it when cleaning up. She smiles, puts it in a safe place, in the window where the afternoon light catches it. The flower lasts 3 days, then crumbles, but Maggie doesn't throw it away. She keeps it in a drawer among old spoons and handwritten IOUs from regulars. The neighbors start to notice. Martha, who runs the laundromat next door, always jealous because Maggie's diner is busier, despite being smaller. Old Mr. Henderson, the retired teacher, who means well but worries too much. Jenny, the young mother from the apartment upstairs who brings her toddler in for milkshakes. "Maggie, why every day?" Martha asks one evening when rain makes the diner quiet. "That young man, he's not family, not neighbor, not anyone. He could leave tomorrow, forget all about you. The money for that food could buy extra supplies." Maggie stirs her coffee, black, bitter, like Joe used to drink. Her right hand, marked with scars, grips the mug tight. "He hasn't left yet, Martha. He's still here, still wants to eat my food." "But it's wasting money, Maggie. Good food for a stranger? He probably won't remember, probably won't pay you back. People these days, they forget fast." Maggie looks at the rain outside. Water streams down the window, making patterns on the glass. "Martha, blessings aren't just for us." She stops, thinks about the right words she's felt but never fully articulated. "If I stop, he isn't the one losing out. I am. I lose the chance to be useful, to feel like this life has meaning, beyond frying and serving. Besides," she smiles, "who says I'm expecting payback? I give because I can, because I still have, because I'm grateful." Martha is silent, doesn't fully understand, but feels something that can't be argued. She changes the subject to the rising price of coffee beans. But Maggie knows her neighbors think she's naive, too trusting, too easily taken advantage of. They don't understand. It doesn't matter. Maggie doesn't need their understanding. She just continues with one small habit that remains. Every Friday after the young man leaves, she takes a little from the day's earnings, not much, just what she can spare, and buys food for other homeless folks she sees. Not because of him, but because that's how she gives thanks. To God, to life, to the food that's always in her kitchen, even when there's only enough for herself. Time moves on, never announces itself. The young man, Maggie still calls him Kid in her heart, though she never knew his real name, begins to change. His hair is still long, but now cleaner. His clothes are still worn, but now washed. Maggie sees the lines from drying in the sun. His eyes still hold shame, but now there's something else, something faintly resembling hope. One night after eating, he doesn't leave right away. He sits longer than usual, watches the rain outside, heavy rain, making the diner's roof leak in 2 spots. "Ma'am?" His voice rough, rarely used. Why do you keep giving?" A simple question, but so heavy, as if it's been buried for a long time, as if every time he tried to ask, shame or fear won. Maggie stops sweeping. She thinks, really thinks, as if this question needs the right answer. "Because you still want to take it, kid. There's still shame in your eyes, still something left. And as long as there's still something left," she smiles, "there's still hope."
The young man looks at her, long. Tears stream down his dirty cheeks. He doesn't wipe them, isn't ashamed, just looks as if trying to carve this face into memory. Then he leaves, into the rain, into the night, to wherever he sleeps, unknown to anyone. But the next morning, he comes back with a more complicated paper flower, this time a butterfly from colorful flyers he found in a recycling bin. But one night, he doesn't come. Maggie waits. Food is ready, special that night, because of a small catering job, so there's extra. Barbecue ribs, coleslaw, cornbread. The heavy white plates are clean, the blue rims shining. The corner booth is empty. Evening passes, night falls. Rain comes heavy, like the night he asked his question. The diner is empty. The roof leaks in 3 spots now. Buckets not enough. She has to use pots and pans. He doesn't appear. The next day, also nothing. A day, a week, a month. Maggie still sets aside food, still uses the heady plates, still puts it in the corner that's now empty, just the worn vinyl of the booth, the window with its view of the parking lot. Then, when night grows late, she eats it herself or gives it to the stray cat that sometimes visits. The neighbors say nothing, but Maggie knows they think, "I told you so. That young man left. Forget about him." But how can she forget? How can she forget someone who came every day, who ate with hunger, who sometimes brought paper flowers, who once asked, "Why do you keep giving?" with tears on his cheeks? Maggie doesn't search, has no name to ask about, has no photo to show around, has no time to drive around town looking for a young man who might have moved on, might have gone to another city, might have run out of time. She just continues, with one small habit that remains. Every Friday after the young man leaves, she takes a little from the day's earnings, not much, just what she can spare, and buys food for other homeless folks she sees. Not because of him, but because that's how she gives thanks. To the life that still lets her wake up in the morning, to the food that's still in her kitchen, to the memory of a young man who once sat in her corner booth, who once asked why she kept giving.
2004. Maggie is 60. Her hair is completely white now, like cotton, like the old homeless men she used to imagine. Her back is curved. Now she can't straighten it, even when she tries. Her hands still work, but slower. Shake a little, not from emotion, but from age. The diner is smaller than ever. The brick walls now have moss growing at the bottom. The roof has more patches than original shingles. Still leaks, still needs buckets and pots. Her children? Tom sometimes sends money, sometimes doesn't. Susan works as a housekeeper, her kids in free school programs. Danny? Still in trouble, somewhere. One morning, a car stops. Not a regular car, not a local car. A black sedan, clean, shiny, with tinted windows. A company logo on the door, a name Maggie doesn't recognize. She doesn't look up, peeling potatoes. Her wrinkled hands work slowly, a ritual she's mastered over 40 years. Peel, discard, cut. The tears that aren't from sadness. Potatoes always make you cry. Someone gets out, steps unhurried, heavy, as if thinking about each step before touching the cracked concrete of her parking lot. "Excuse me, ma'am." The voice, deep, gentle. There's a vibration of something familiar, but Maggie can't place it. The voice of someone grown, someone who's been through things. She looks up slowly. Her back protests, asks her to stay bent. Standing before her is a man in his 40s, short hair, neat, graying at the temples, wearing a white shirt pressed perfectly, dark slacks, leather shoes that shine, too shiny for the dusty ground of her diner. On his wrist, a watch, not fancy, but well cared for, antique looking, like an inheritance. But his eyes, those eyes, still deep brown, still clear, no longer clouded. He's had surgery, wears thin framed glasses now, but there's something in them. Something old. Something that once sat in her corner booth, staring at a plate of meatloaf, crying when he asked why she kept giving. Maggie stands, slow. Her back curves deeper, but her eyes widen, recognizing. Kid? The man smiles. Tears stream down his cheeks, clean now, but still trembling like before. He bows, a deep bow of respect, almost touching the cracked linoleum. When he raises his head again, his voice shakes. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm late coming home." They sit in the same booth, now with new cushions brought from the assistant from the car, but Maggie refuses to sit there. She sits on her old stool behind the counter, as always, as if nothing has changed. The man, he introduces himself as Rob, or Rob Hartley, tells his story. He wasn't a typical homeless person. He once had a small auto parts store, a wife, Linda, a girl from the next town who married him despite her parents' objections, a little boy, Jamie, just learning to walk when he fell. But he had a bad habit, gambling. Started as just for fun on weekend nights, then became extra income, then became a need. Debts, drinking to forget the debts, more debts to pay for drinking. One night, drunk, he borrowed from a loan shark using his store as collateral. Couldn't pay, lost the store. His wife left, taking their son. Daddy is sick. Daddy needs to get well first. We'll wait. But he didn't get well. He was ashamed, broken. He chose to die to the world, living on the streets, waiting. For what? Maybe death. Maybe forgiveness that would never come. But what came was Maggie. "Every time you gave me food," Rob says, his trembling hand holding Maggie's trembling hand, "I felt still seen as human. Not trash, not a mistake. Still someone who mattered." That last night at the diner, 10 years ago, his wife found him, accidentally. Linda was visiting family, saw a man who looked like her husband sitting in a corner booth, crying, begging him to come home. He refused, ashamed, but Linda came back, and again, brought their son, Jamie, who could now say daddy clearly, brought photos, brought letters from the boy just learning to write. "Daddy, I miss you." Finally, he gave in, went home to his in-laws, who received him coldly but didn't turn him away, got help, went to rehab, worked as a laborer at a friend's factory, promoted, started a small business, an auto repair shop, which grew to 3 locations, then became a parts distributor, then success. Now he owns a small manufacturing plant, 50 employees, a house in a good neighborhood, his son Jamie, now a teenager in a good high school, a wife who still has trauma, but still stays. But he never forgot. "Every Friday, ma'am, I look for a diner. Look for someone who gives without asking. Look for you." Last year, his business succeeded beyond expectations. Now 5 locations across the state, and he wants to share. He brings out a wooden box from the car, antique, carved with patterns of flowers. He had had it custom made. Inside, a property deed. A lot downtown with an old building that can become a new diner. Bigger, proper, a roof that doesn't leak, a kitchen with gas stoves, no more electric griddles, a small apartment in the back for rest. "This isn't payment, ma'am," Rob says, tears still flowing but his smile warm. "This is continuation. Your blessings weren't just for you." Maggie cries. Not sad tears, not loud happy tears. The tears of someone who finally understands. That every plate of food she gave never disappeared. That kindness does come back, even if it takes 10 years. That life is always bigger than this small diner, bigger than her curved back, bigger than her scarred hands. Rob stays a week in town. Every morning he sits at the diner, her old diner, which she still runs even though the new property is now hers. They talk, laugh, sometimes sit in silence, enjoying the quiet that only two people who once saved each other can understand. Then Rob leaves, back to his wife, his son, his life that's good now. But every month he comes, not with big gifts, just sits in the corner, eats a warm meal, now made by Maggie's helper because her hands are too tired to cook every day, watches Maggie sit in her rocking chair on the porch of the new diner, clean and dry, though she still prefers the old stool from the original place. And every time he leaves, he always says, "Thank you, ma'am, for seeing me when the world made me invisible." Now, take a slow breath. Feel this night air. Think maybe there's someone, somewhere, waiting for a small kindness from you. Maybe not an older person, maybe someone young, your age or your parents' age, who still has shame in their eyes, who can still be saved before it's too late. Kindness always finds its way home. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, maybe 10 years, but always, always returns. Close your eyes now. Let this story stay in the corner of your heart like a warm plate on a worn table. Good night. Dream gently.